Hey, Heidi.
Hi, Dean.
Heidi, okay, so I've got three different scenarios to go through. Welcome back, by the way. This is episode
Thank you.
174. You were on 41, I think, something like that. So there's a lot of episodes in between, 133 apparently. And so welcome back. Tell folks a little bit about you again, and then I'm going to introduce you to the first of our three scenarios.
Well, I'm a fractional CMO, have been for a couple of years now. I focus exclusively on B2B, and within B2B, exclusively on tech. I specialize in AI and professional services, specializing in commercial real estate, because those are kind of the two industries where I did a decade each. I also write a lot of business books, and I focus on organizational effectiveness, getting through breakdowns, and helping people accomplish more with less stress, effort, wasted time.
All right. Okay, so scenario number one, and then after you answer this, we're going to switch over and talk the law for a moment. Um, I imagine most of your clients are completely or mostly virtual. So you don't actually like go to their premises necessarily all that often. But in this scenario, they're only 5 minutes from your home. So you've signed this client. Today's the first official day.
Mhm.
You're going to go into their building, right? So you're going to walk in on day one. What's the dream scenario when you, as a fractional CMO, walk into a brand new client? And what's the nightmare scenario?
Ooh, the dream scenario is all about that attitude of ambition.
Yeah.
They're open to new ideas. Ideally, they're somewhat organized so I can quickly access what I need. And they're ready to make a big change. So they're able to focus and we can define a first project that they want to accomplish quickly. And also, that winning has some clear KPIs. So we
Right.
know if we did a good job.
And
Nightmare
what's the
scenario.
nightmare?
Nightmare scenario. The executive team is not aligned on what they want to accomplish. So winning is unclear. KPIs might be non existent. You have no background of what came before. And very likely you have to chase down a lot of little rabbit holes just
Yeah.
to get the resources you need to do the work that you want to accomplish.
All right. Fair enough. Law, hi. Nice to
Hey,
meet you again. So tell folks a little bit about you, and then talk about your, day one nightmare versus your day one dream scenario.
um, I have a dual kind of Batman-ish life, Batman Bruce Wayne kind of life. I'm the president of my firm, Tocobaga,
Mhm.
TOCOBA.GA. If you're looking for the website, and it's a mostly lead gen B2B, B2C, B2B to C integrated marketing agency slash small business advisory because I have a business plan writing background.
Right.
And then I have another career as a stand-up comedian. I might not be very funny on here, but both kind of help each other out in a weird yin yang kind of way. The dream scenario is you come in and have an honest discussion. They tell you what's actually wrong. You
Right.
don't find that out later.
They didn't hide it. Yeah.
Didn't hide it. Being a comic, when I used to hide it in those first intro meetings or the first onboarding meetings, and now I tell them straight up, and it kind of opens up that honesty in a weird
Mhm.
way. I don't know why, but they let their hair down and kind of tell me what's really going on. And the worst scenario is kind of the opposite of that. Is when they're not giving me all the answers, and you feel it in your, it's
Mhm.
intuitive, and you're like,
Right.
what, you can't tell me what the revenue was last year. You can't tell me revenue goals. You can't tell me. I don't think you have a business plan. Most 99% of my clients over 10 years have never had one, not even an outline. But you can't tell me your income statement from last year or your P&L or something. And so that's when it gets tricky, and I you have to become a detective. And I don't want to. That's a
Yeah.
waste. That's wasted time on both sides.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. Okay. So, Lost, let's stick together for a second. Scenario two of our three. Okay. You're the main speaker. You're on stage. There's 250 people in the audience. They all came from corporate. They all became fractional CMOs yesterday. So to them, like, you are the expert at fractional CMO, right? So I'm gonna between you and Heidi, we're gonna go back and forth. There's like three parts of the speech that I'm gonna prompt you for, and then you finish the thought for me. Okay.
So like
So the
Mad Libs.
Kind of like Mad Libs. Yeah, you can. Your answer can be as long as it needs to be.
Okay.
Right? Like I'm, as we say in copywriting, it should be as long as it needs to be, but no longer. Right? So first is, okay, guys, welcome to the world of being a fractional CMO. I can tell you right now, the thing you're going to be most shocked by is
having to explain what a fractional CMO is to almost everybody you meet, including not prospective clients, just almost everybody.
Yeah.
Most people don't know what a CMO is, so you have to kind of explain what the job is first.
Fair enough, right? And Heidi, how about you when you're giving your speech? The thing, guys, that as new fractional CMOs, you're going to be most shocked by?
You are the chief cook and bottle washer.
Yeah.
You are going to be doing all the things. And until you hire an assistant, and I took that leap about a year ago and hired a full-time assistant, until you hire someone to help you build the spreadsheets, do the research, pull together the nitty-gritty that normally you would have a team to direct to do, you will be writing the tweets or the LinkedIn posts or converting an image from a JPEG to a ping. You will be doing all the things. So you need to become kind of Batman. You need to build all of those capabilities into your tool belt. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck and stopped at every turn.
All right, fair enough. So Heidi, around the middle of your speech now, and you're saying one other thing, by the way, folks, many of your clients just do not understand what?
KPIs. Many of them don't understand the value of domain authority or backlinks or dwell time. And they don't understand it, first of all, for why it's significant. Secondly, they don't understand the diagnostic metrics that underlie some of the maybe leading edge KPIs. And so I actually spend a lot of time educating executive teams on why something matters. For example, why does branded search matter, and why does reducing the overall total of branded search matter and help you bring in more organic search traffic?
All right. And Law, what do you think? Most clients just don't understand what?
They don't know what they don't know. And it's not to be a little like obtuse to say that answer. It's most of them don't know what their brand actually is and the messaging they push out. And they don't know who their target audience should be. So when I walk in, I go, who do you think your customer, client, patient is? And they can't really tell me. If they can't tell me military-like callback, they don't know.
Right. All right. And then Law, some intern is trying to signal you that it's time to get off stage, and they're bringing up the music even, right? And they're trying to get people to applaud, but you're like, no, one more thing. If I get the most important lesson I can ever give you from now and the next few years about getting clients, the most important client getting lesson is what?
Follow your own advice. Don't get in your own way. Entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur, really. And the one thing all entrepreneurs have in common is they can get in their own way. The successful ones don't.
Right. And Heidi, how about you? The one most important core lesson, if you can't tell them anything else about getting clients in their business, what is it?
You need to listen for the pain in the market. And so if somebody comes to you and says, I need revenue, and so I need you to do some marketing things for revenue, you also need to be listening for the fact that they might also be thinking in their head, my pain is orchestration. Like my pain is I don't have the time to manage a team of marketers, or I don't have the time to handle certain things or approve certain things. And so you need to fulfill not only their expressed needs in revenue in marketing, but you need to fulfill their unexpressed needs like orchestration or transparency or holding yourself accountable rather than making them do it for you.
All right. No, good answer. Okay. So third of the three scenarios, you're at a conference kind of thing. You're on the floor, right? We're at the booths and everyone milling around. And there are a lot of fractional CMOs there. And there are a lot of companies looking to hire fractional CMOs, or at least to talk to them, right? So you're sort of talking to prospective clients on the floor. Heidi, as you talk to prospective clients, when it comes to the topic of marketing, what do most clients overrate and what do they underrate in the world of marketing as far as getting results or getting where they need to go?
I
What's
feel like a lot of
overrated and underrated?
businesses, oh, I'm sorry. I feel like a lot of businesses overrate the promise of a software platform.
Right.
Man, if we could just buy HubSpot, all of our problems will be solved. And yet they neglect to assign a power user. So there's that promise that one tool will solve their problems, and that's always overrated unless you truly dig in and use that platform for all it's worth. On the flip side, in terms of what's underrated, I think it's the clear approvals and workflow. Thinking along the lines of how can you make the process of building something more agile and less waterfall,
Right.
less waiting for somebody to pass the ball. And so with that, I'd be asking the question, like, how do we get to an MVP, a minimally viable product? And how can we do it in a way where lots of people can be working in parallel, so that we can move this faster and get it into the experimentation and testing phase, rather than kind of sitting back and saying, well, we're going to spend, months and months perfecting this and cross our fingers that it's going to work at the end. I'd rather get something shipped really rapidly and then
Right.
see if the market likes it.
And Law, how about you when you're talking to prospective clients?
Right now,
what's overrated and underrated?
I'm trying to hide my dog in the background of this video.
You don't have to. It's 2025, man. Dogs are part of the routine.
But it's like distracting me. I look and it's creating a light like I'm holy, like I'm Jesus' brother. Give me the question again, please.
When you're talking to prospects and they're talking to you about marketing, what's overrated and underrated from what they talk about?
Most people come to you with a tactic in mind, and it's usually because them or their partner has an interaction with it. We should be on Pinterest because my wife's on Pinterest. And you're like, whoa. Here's how you should think. Macro to micro. Tactics is like the last thing. You don't even know who your audience is. Yeah. You don't know what your brand is. And we don't have any goals set, any KPIs, any benchmarks. We don't have campaigns going. Tactics are the last thing we're going to talk about.
Yeah. And what's underrated?
Writing a business plan. And really, it doesn't have to be one that's 60 pages, because that's a lot. It's a lot of research, most business plans, and it doesn't have to be for getting a loan or anything. I think people have a weird misnomer kind of knowledge about that. I think an outline of a business plan will work. bplan.com. There's a bunch of them out there that are like templated.
Right.
What's your mission, vision, core values? Who are you? What do you do? Why are you better? Why does the customer, the client, patient benefit from what y'all are doing as a product or service? So I don't think people think about the basics because you get really caught up. You get really busy, and you don't take a minute to step back and go, what are we doing? And that's what we're good for as a fractional CMO.
Well, let's talk about basics for a second. That's a good thing. So the next question is sort of our scenario. You're on the floor. You end up talking to a refreshingly honest prospective client. Okay. And they say, look, man, like, I don't even understand this part of it. Like, what is marketing? Law.
Marketing's an aggregate of a lot of different tactical kind of strategies employed. That kind of sounds like it was ChatGPT that wrote that definition. So let me try to. It's not just advertising. It's not just social media organically. It's not just social media ads. It's not just email marketing. It's all these things integrated and omni-channel, so they're leveraged on top of each other. The scenario I always like to use as an example, because everybody's bought a car. On average, there's 25 touch points when you buy a car. 19 are digital, 6 are offline. And they all leverage on each other. When you think you're doing pocket research on the lot, they got you geo-fenced in to their own websites you don't know they own. And they're giving you information that you think is valuable, but it's their own information back to you. So things like that.
All right. And Heidi, someone asks you, what is marketing? What's the answer now in 2025?
I think marketing is about creating a promise. It's a brand promise, and This promise has often been associated with creating an identity that confers trust, that gets somebody to trust you enough to get into that sales cycle with
Mm-hmm.
you. But unfortunately, we have this habit of assigning trust wrong. We either look at somebody's track record and credibility and say, oh, that must be a reason to trust them. But can you imagine trusting a doctor who's done it a million times and says, well, I've got a tea time in 45 minutes, so we're going to make this quick, right? But by the same token, there's a habit of it's assigning trust based on sincerity. And can you imagine a doctor coming in and say, well, I've never done this before, but I promise I'll be really careful. So neither sincerity nor competence really accurately give you trust for a brand. The only way I think in 2025 that you can really build that brand promise on trust is by showing accountability. And that means transparency, like in all of the things that we expect from our brands in terms of positive business practices. And it also means providing kind of a declaration that something is done and is done well. And so that looks like a brand checking back with me to see if I'm happy with the product that I bought. And if not, how can they fix it before I get to a review site and give them a scalding review?
All right, excellent. Okay, so the last question in this scenario where we're on a floor and we're just talking to prospective clients. Heidi, as you're talking to a company and wondering if they're a good fit, what's a red flag when you're talking to a prospective client, and what's a green flag?
The green flag is definitely that a client is more interested in talking about the results that they want to achieve than the specific steps to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times when they start with the steps, I'm thinking, okay, well, that's an excellent answer, but what was the question? Like, what are we really trying to achieve? So for me, that's the best green flag. I think a red flag is not knowing what you want to accomplish, or saying, well, I really like Apple's website. Let's make it like that.
Right.
Or just kind of having something that you're trying to duplicate rather than being open to the thing that's going to drive your business because it's unique to you.
All right, Heidi, when I come back to you, I'm going to switch to Law now. When I come back to you, it's your turn to ask a question. You can ask a question of anyone else on the podcast, and any question you want. Law, so when you're talking to prospective clients, like, what's a green flag and what's a red flag? Like, no. Like, not only do I think that I'm not right for you, I'm not sure you should be talking to any fractional CMOs. Like, what's a green flag and a red flag with a prospect?
I've just had this happen, and I if you go to my podcast, you can hear me talk about it because the guy was such a jerk. I had to just, what's a podcast better for than venting out this stuff in a funny way. The thing was listening. It's on both sides. Red flag, they don't listen. They're not taking it in. They just want to plug in something to fill what they think is what they need as a seat for their business. And they're not really taking it in. The good one, the green flag, is when they're listening and imbibing it in and really digesting it. And usually the really best indicator is I'll get an email a day or two later or something, and they're like throwing ideas at me after the things we talked about. And that's always like the best kind of client,
All right. When I come back to you, you can ask anyone in the podcast any question you want. But Heidi, what's your question?
Well, Law, I'm curious if you would talk a little bit about how AI has affected what you do, either specific tools you're adopting or even specific guardrails you have that maybe keep AI out of your business. How is that becoming part of your business?
I look at AI right now in 2025 as, it's like the TI-83 calculator, right? It's going to help you a lot. It doesn't do everything for you yet, but you need to learn how to do sine, cosine, and tangent on it for class. I kind of look at it that way. It's not the end-all be-all, but you need to keep your eye on it, and you need to know how to use it going forward, because you got business calculus 2 coming up, because this isn't going to stop. AI You know, I don't know if y'all saw the AI robot that beefed with someone in a Chinese parade recently, but it looked oddly. It looked like a Philadelphia Eagles fan after a loss. I mean, it was like bucking shoulders and getting in someone's face. It was crazy. So that's the scary part of AI. The stuff for work, I mean, it's SEO has been a big problem, but SEO has been game for 20 years. And so I'm glad there's things like I go to Chat GPT when I need a real answer instead of going to Google like I've trained myself, because I can't find the real answer because everything's so gamed. So that's where I'm at. I love finding out about new stuff, but it can get overwhelming. So I subscribe to a bunch of newsletters that just kind of go, hey, here are kind of 10 apps that are going on. Keep your eye on these. And I find out if like some of these newsletters all say the same one, that's worth checking out.
All right. And Law, what's your question?
Do I need to ask a question that's business related? Because I have questions.
It can be any question you want.
When I do a stand-up show, I like asking very weird questions to the crowd. Heidi, I'm going to ask you a question. You're going to speak for all women in the U.S. So no, not too hard.
No pressure.
Yeah. I want to know your thoughts on the Cybertruck. What do you think about it? Women hate it. They have a visceral reaction. They hate it so much. See, this is what I have a brain. This is good for marketing. I observe behavior and I can't not look at it.
Yeah.
Every woman every woman I know hates the Cybertruck. It's so ugly though. It's pretty. That's what I say.
It is distinctive, no doubt. And I definitely thought that Tesla's entry into the market in part was heavily based on design. So the Cybertruck wins for being distinctive, but my 16-year-old son, who is very into cars, made me sit down and watch a YouTube video which pitted the Cybertruck against a conventional truck. And that poor little truck the Cybertruck was destroyed by the end of that video. So I can't get behind it, but I don't want to yuck somebody else's yum. I feel like right now driving Cybertrucks and Teslas in general is somewhat of a political statement. And so you should be clear about what your identity is and if you really want that to be part of it.
See, I think it's more men are barnacles and women are flowers. And you guys we're sharp edges. We like things like that. This is very broad. I'm painting with broad strokes, obviously, but I don't know. Maybe I just want a truck where no other truck driver respects me.
Well, you could get that with the Cybertruck for sure.
Right. I mean, it's not like I'm picking up girls with my 2003 Yukon with 2 car seats in the back right now. So, which is my favorite. It's almost a classic.
Hey, so first of all, thanks for being here. This has been fantastic and really interesting questions and really interesting answers. Heidi, these days, who should contact you and what's the best way to get to you?
The best clients for me are people or brands that are at an inflection point. Mm-hmm. They're ready to go to the next level. They want to see that kind of change, that hockey stick in their growth, or they're facing a crowded marketplace and they realize that they don't really stand out. And so they are ready to stand out with new messaging and with really zagging against where the market is zigging. They can contact me at dearcmo.com. And I offer a free 30-minute consult to get started and just talk through what they're looking to accomplish with marketing.
All right. And Law, how about you? Who should contact you these days and what's the best way?
My niche has been law firms. Right. I'm in Tampa, which I think is technically the most marketed per dollar on for law firms per capita in any city or something like that. Something crazy like that. But Dad was an attorney. Uncle's the head of a law firm of 100 lawyers. Oh. I've been around lawyers my whole life. They're going to challenge you, and a lot of people in marketing don't like that. So that became our niche. But also another niche is VC firms or private equity firms that do that kind of platform thing where they're scooping up mom and pop businesses and they need to wrap branding around it while they're handling the operation, setting it up to sell. And then anybody can get a hold of me. If they want law at Tocobaga, TOCOBA.GA is my email. And, if we're not right for you, I will point you in the right direction to someone like Heidi.
All right. Both of you, thanks very much for being here. This has been fantastic. And thanks, everyone. This is episode 174, I think. Yep, 174. And we'll see you next time. Bye. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Dean.